Welcome to Two Hypnotherapists Talking with me, Denise Billen-Mejia, in Delaware, USA.
And me, Martin Furber, in Preston, UK.
This weekly podcast is for anyone and everyone who'd like to know more about the fascinating subject of hypnosis and the benefits it offers.
I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist.
I'm a retired medical doctor turned consulting hypnotist.
We are Two Hypnotherapists Talking.
So let's get on with the episode.
Well, let's get on with the show indeed. Episode 3, and thanks to Brenda last week. What are we talking about today, Denise? Or are you going to reveal how we arrived at the topic today?
We are going to reveal it because every conversation I have, not every, obviously sometimes it's what we have for dinner, but so often conversations nowadays are some aspect of AI is discussed. I was at a big group of doctors on Tuesday night, Zooming, of course, and the topic of conversation then was AI and is it going to replace radiologists, for example? Is it how can it be used, and do we need to be worried about it? And then we got into driving cars. You can cut some of this out if you like, but it was a really fun conversation. And then all of a sudden, technology failed us, and the Zoom room just closed mid-sentence on somebody.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird. But I know that before you hit record or right after, you checked out with ChatGPT. Sorry, we're advertising probably the most commonly known open source.
The ones are available.
Yes, they are, but this one you can use for free. And that gave us a series of potential conversation starters, which I thought was kind of fun. And it gave us, 10?
Something like that, yeah. Because I mentioned that over here in the UK last week was Mental Health Awareness Week. And this year's topic was anxiety. So I asked it for things to talk about. Conversation starters. And I found it quite useful.
But people get anxious about AI.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, have you ever tried asking AI something like, are you here to take over the world, and see what it answers?
Yeah, I think sometimes it can joke back.
Yeah, it does.
I haven't asked. Yeah.
It's the same as if you tell Alexa to self-destruct. It'll go, I am self-destructing now. 10, 9, 8.
So anxiety is a huge area, and everybody has anxiety. Is just, I think it's just your subconscious telling you, stay in your comfort zone. Please stay in your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think though for the public, it's one of those things. They see all these words, and how do you differentiate between, say, overwhelm, anxiety, stress? Stating to people what the differences are.
Well, that's like somebody saying I'm depressed. Not clinically you aren't, but I mean they might be, but you need to explore it a bit more than that. It's not just feeling a bit sad.
No, it's got to be for a minimum of 2 weeks, hasn't it? Of 2 or 3 more symptoms.
Right. But it's also we use it colloquially, and diminishes the real disease of clinical depression, the various kinds, and also tells people they're not supposed to feel sad. You're supposed to feel sad. Some things are worth being sad about. Not taking over your life, not being, not so the point you can't function, but the highs and lows need to be appreciated.
Well, yeah, and also the risk of sounding like a Facebook meme. If you don't experience sadness, how will you know what happiness is?
Yeah, I suppose. You've had a client recently. I don't know if you can discuss your client without giving away any details, but that person has experienced major sadness and anxiety
major
about
sadness.
Major anxiety, anticipating being sad because of the triggers that will come with it. And that, I think, is something that, since we're trying to promote hypnotherapy here, that is one of the things that hypnosis can really help with.
Yeah, from my point of view, from a sort of double-pronged attack as well, because one, I mean, as you say, any medical conditions exacerbated by stress. So hypnotherapy is brilliant for reducing stress, bringing the stress levels down. But on the other side of the coin, it's also really good for future positive rehearsal. So when somebody's got this feeling of impending doom because they've got an event to go to, they'll imagine it in the worst case scenario many times over. With hypnosis, with the process of them being relaxed and being amenable to the positive suggestions, you can direct their future focus in a positive way. You can help them mentally rehearse what's going to happen and to see it, you know, to pick out all the positives of, or possible positives of that future event.
Yes,
and point into the subconscious.
Yeah, and point out that Martin isn't making up the things that are going to happen.
No.
This is the client's mind. They know you've gone out of focus again.
I've just gone out of focus. Yeah. Excuse me if you're watching on YouTube. There we go. I'll come back into focus in a minute. Don't worry. I'll probably look better with a soft lens.
So it isn't mind control. It isn't us saying, "Oh, think of this nice happiness."
It's empowerment.
Exactly. You're allowing the person to relax enough to realize the positive things that they can find in their own mind, and they can then rehearse how they'll be responding to.
Yeah, the thing is though, these situations of future negative forecasting become self-perpetuating and self-fulfilling prophecies, because the more you start to imagine something in a bad scenario, the more stressed you become, the more you'll imagine it, and on it goes. You know, as that stress increases, you start to think of even more things that can go wrong.
Yeah, and that is the natural thing that humans do. We catastrophize everything.
Back to National Mental Health Awareness Week, which we had last week over here, and this year's theme, anxiety. What other ways do you think hypnosis can help with anxiety? Sort of like, say somebody's got generalized anxiety disorder, for example, and maybe, you know, they've had that diagnosis and maybe they're being treated with medication by their doctor. Can you explain how hypnosis would possibly help that person as well as part of the toolkit?
It's exactly what we said. It's relaxation and realizing that the stressor whatever it is a natural thing. Now, unfortunately, many people just are it's their default position to feel anxious.
Yes.
They've had so much stress that their brain that's the pattern that's in their mind, and they're going to stay there because that's what they expect. And so we need to interrupt that. And that's true for just about everything in hypnosis. All we're doing is allowing them to close down the critical mind and the overthinking part and just remember a time when they felt really confident and not anxious. And it may be back in childhood, but so long as they can remember what that felt like, they can sort of capture it and put it back in their life.
Yeah, well, this is it. If somebody has experienced great feelings, if they can, I mean, I always sort of use one of my own from my own childhood. I can remember being a kid, and one particular winter we had really thick, heavy snow, and I can remember spending all day as a little, I was about 6, rolling a snowball bigger and bigger till it got bigger than me. And going to bed that night, absolutely exhausted, but in the nicest possible way, feeling really tired out, but having had a fantastic day, going to bed and sleeping like a baby and waking up the next day, you know, wanting to do it all over again.
Dreams of being in the Guinness Book of Records. That's a big snowball.
You know, I always give that example, well, not always, but I frequently give that example to my clients and ask them to try and recall a moment when they felt really good as a child like that. And as soon as they say they have, I say, well, you've obviously got the resources within you to feel happy then.
That's it. And that is what you want to capture so that they can make sure they're giving themselves that feeling on a regular basis, which will then build that pathway back or rediscover the pathway that they previously had, that they've been, to use your elephant metaphor, hadn't been trodden down for a while and so it overgrown.
Do you think, as adults, just as a whopping generalization, do you think as adults we forget how to just let go and feel that good and feel that happy?
Yeah.
Do you think life is just too fast, too involved?
Everything's a to-do list, and it's just so much. Now, obviously, that is a generalization. There are some people who don't worry enough. I mean, there are some things we do need to worry about because we need to deal with them.
Yes.
What tends to happen when you have an anxiety disorder is you worry, but you don't do anything to change.
You start procrastinating.
Yeah, but I don't think of it even as procrastination. It's like that. It's just you sit there. not even thinking, I don't want to leave the house because the sky may fall. It's just you're sitting there locked in anxiety, generalized anxiety. You've got nowhere, you've got nothing to focus on because it's just become so global. And so when you're working with a therapist, a CBT therapist, or any other, psychoanalytic, or a hypnotherapist, you can through conversation, whether with a conscious or unconscious mind, you can find those little pieces and allow them to focus on those things, which will then be able to generalize good things instead of generalize bad things.
Okay, well, in the hypnosis style that you use then, for example, would you give somebody an anchor, something they could do when they get into that
always
state?
Always. That's what every session is different because everybody's coming for a different reason. Everybody's got a different backstory. But my usual use is of a progressive relaxation technique, partly because we're on Zoom, partly because I think there's no reason to shock somebody into something. We have an hour and a half, which is fine. So they have a progressive relaxation, and then as we begin, they go to a place where they feel completely safe and comfortable. Find a specific memory when they felt completely in control, happy, confident, life was wonderful. And if you're 2 when you're remembering, I don't care. Just find a real memory so you can play that memory to yourself a few times and then anchor that feeling to an action. Usually it's just to pinch your fingers together. Sometimes it's something else. So that your brain will associate, if I do this, this is the way I feel when I do that.
Yeah.
It sounds goofy.
No,
but
not at all. Not at all. It makes absolutely
sense.
Not
to you, it may to the public. And so when they do that, they just get that instant little,
well, this is it though, Denise. I mean, it might sound goofy to somebody who's not had any experience with hypnosis, because that is the thing though. It may sound goofy. You may think it sounds goofy, but no, it doesn't. And this is the thing. People want to know something about hypnotherapy, how hypnotherapy works, if they're curious. We say it's not woo-woo, it's not, snap your fingers and all that kind of thing, but there are various universal techniques that are applied, by hypnotists. I do exactly the same thing with setting anchors. I do concentrate a lot more on positive future rehearsal though for things with people as well. If somebody is really anxious, especially about something specific, like a driving test, for example.
Yes, I do that if it's for a specific event or a specific type of event. Famously, the guy driving over a bridge, and he used an anchor. If you start to feel
now,
that,
isn't he?
He is. He's wonderful. Because then he got other things that worked too. But to use that anchor as he was driving, so that he would feel relaxed. Because there was a huge amount of the anticipatory anxiety. I mean, even though there's a lot of bridges where we live, they aren't everywhere. It's a lot of regular roads. And he didn't have any trouble at all driving. It was only bridges and high places that bothered him.
I think, though, it's getting into your client's space, so that, because if people haven't been hypnotized, if they haven't experienced that intense relaxation, they won't quite understand what it is we're doing. And for me, it's like getting into your client's space and just getting them so relaxed that they can really visualize what it is you're putting over to them.
Right. For the most part, when I'm starting work with a client, we do address the main issue they have, because that's why they're paying me. They want to get rid of that particular issue. But for some clients, I have to go back a stage and just teach them what it feels to be relaxed.
Yes.
So we have a general relaxation, and they go home with a relaxation tape, so that we can start the work once they know how that feels.
Well, I mean, that's similar to me,
and trust it.
Well, with every client I see, after I've given them an initial consultation, which I don't charge for, I give them the recording to listen to every night for a week, because it gets them used to my voice and it gets them used to relaxing. Because otherwise, the first time you're going to do a full proper session with them, they've got that many questions in their head beforehand, What will it sound like? How will I feel? They're already halfway there by listening to the recordings. They know what it's like to relax, and then obviously it's going to be a far more pleasurable experience for them.
Right.
I think what a lot of people, perhaps when you manage your people's expectations, some people think they're just going to be like zonked out, not remember a thing, this, that, and the other. For me, I always say to them, I want it to be, the highlight of your week. It's a wonderful, relaxing experience.
Right. And that's part of it. It's the anxiety about hypnosis. Now we're going to deal with that as well. So
they're expecting you to bash them on the head or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really why the first session tends to be relaxation, although depending on why they've come. And some clients have been hypnotized by other people before. They've had a fear of flying that was 20, 30 years ago. That worked. Maybe this will work for this too. Let me go find a hypnotist. But they still need to get used to me, my voice. There's the usual rapport that you have to build.
Absolutely.
And if somebody is truly very anxious, it can take a while.
Exactly. And that's the thing. That's what I say. It's always better that they listen to a recording for a week first. It brings the anxiety down. Without a doubt, they'll be sleeping better.
Right.
If
although we should say again, always they should talk to their doctor if their anxiety is of that ilk.
Oh, absolutely.
If they're thinking they need a professional of any kind, start with your doctor.
Start with your doctor.
There are other conditions that would give you an organic reason to be anxious. People with thyroid disorder, for example, they may feel anxious, and fix the thyroid, a lot of that will go away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it is in the US, Denise, but over here, generally with a lot of people, the hypnotherapist is their last port of call.
Yeah.
They've usually been to the doctor and either with or without a diagnosis. They've tried other therapies first, because hypnotherapy has that reputation of being a bit out there, a little bit different and perhaps unconventional from other methods.
The reason that I'm on YouTube and podcasts and talking to people, I think probably for you too, because I want doctors to realize that we should possibly be the first port of call.
Yes.
Or if the person's got a thyroid problem, okay, let's work with medication, that work up, and because that can take quite a few weeks. But also include hypnosis.
Yeah.
So they need to have a stash of hypnotists they can refer to. And now that everybody's on Zoom, there's so many more hypnotists that people have access to.
Yeah.
But they don't realize it.
Yeah, and ones who specialise in different things, or just basically a wider choice of people. I mean, something with, I think any kind of therapist is, if you're shopping around for one, you read the bio, you look at the picture, and let's face it, as human beings, we judge on appearances. Absolutely.
And we tend to like. I get a lot of older people because clearly I am not young chicken. And but I quite often get, I was looking for a guy, but I can't find one. And since you're a doctor, this is, it won't be embarrassing to talk about this thing with you, which is nice for me, but it's rather sad that there are. And are there more women than men? Hypnotists, hypnotherapists. There are a lot of hypnotists.
Yeah, hypnotherapists. Yeah, there are. I mean, we know from various groups we've been in, for every 20 women, there's one man.
Yeah, but that may be a phenomena of women liking to talk to other women.
Sexist.
But I mean, it's true. I don't mean women like to talk. Since the people you're talking, the people,
No, I'm sorry, I can't comment on that. If I were to say women like to talk, that would be horrendous. No.
It's an unconscious bias.
So we were talking about positive future visualizations. I think we get that the best once a client's been relaxed over a period of days with a nighttime recording, but also it's being able to conjure up in their imagination, help them to conjure up in their imagination the most vivid picture. Now, this may be useful to people who are watching this who think, but I cannot visualize something. When you close your eyes, you don't see an actual picture in front of you. Well, some people don't. I always find it a little bit difficult to explain to people exactly what visualization is. So if somebody says, I can't imagine that, I cannot see it, I can't picture it, I'll tend to ask them, What colour's the front door?
Yes,
Where's the
exactly.
letterbox? Where's the handle?
Yes.
Where are the numbers on it, or are they on the wall next to it? And in their way, they must be visualizing that to be able to tell me.
That's it's like we ask, are you creative? And everybody says, no. Well, of course we all are in some ways.
Oh yeah, even if you just enjoy plating your meal up nicely.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
being creative.
Hanging your diplomas behind your head.
No.
I've never managed to get mine tend not to stay on the wall, but
yours would be stuck on the window if you had them behind you.
But that's true. I mean, everybody has the ability to imagine, but what you imagine imagining is maybe different. Okay, we went a bit sideways there. Where did we end up?
Well, we're just talking about positive future visualization. It's mental rehearsal.
Visualizing, the fact that people can visualize, and that's just because that's the word we use. Whatever faculty your imagination chooses. If you want to hear music, see colors dancing in front of you, whatever, or sensation. You know, that's of course the way Giancarlo Russo, when he was explaining to me how he works with his stroke survivors, he has them imagine the feel under the paralyzed arm or leg or whatever. Imagine you can feel the sheet under your arm. And so imagination is incredibly powerful, and the brain can't tell if it's real or not.
Yeah, exactly. And you've just hit on something that I remember talking with somebody about years ago now, when I was in training, and that was phantom pains after limb removals.
Yes,
again, you were talking about the brain not knowing the difference between imagination and reality, and somebody who had their hand amputated was still getting pains in the fingers, obviously.
Because the brain was frantically looking for the hand.
Yeah. So, I mean, a prime example of how hypnotherapy could help, surely.
Oh, it is. It's very well known for use for that. To ignore those sensations.
Well, yeah. I mean, a very different thing from somebody who's unfortunately had to have an amputation. But again, I use it in weight loss for getting people to reinterpret what they call hunger pangs, because of course it's not real hunger. You know, if you were really hungry, you'd know it. But of course, when people get that urge to eat and they think they're getting a sensation in the stomach. Yeah. Okay.
So if you're a hypnotist yourself, you can write back and tell us the ways that you deal with it.
And if
you're the general public and you're interested, you can look in your phone book and see how many hypnotists you can find. It would be interesting. Do a quick roundup of hypnotists, or contact one of us, and we can help you find somebody local, or we can help you over Zoom.
Absolutely, Denise, because he's trying to get that understanding through to people, though, because a lot of people think, okay, yeah, they don't think they're swinging muches anymore and things like that, but they think they're just going to be zonked out and whatever it is won't be there anymore. You know, I don't think there's a great understanding out there of exactly what happens under hypnosis, as I say, like positive future mental rehearsal, or setting an anchor that they can trigger to bring back good feelings. And
but there's also, obviously every hypnotist works differently. There's also, we think we're explaining what's happening, but there's still research going on to actually, now that we can look inside the brain to a degree, now we actually know it's not just a nap. Your brain's actually quite busy.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. I'm waiting for my EEG to arrive. But anyway, again, I found the research piece, and I've lost it now, about how much more active electrical impulses are going on in the brain at rest than when you're doing a math exam.
Really?
Really, yeah.
Because it's so focused, presumably, on the math. Interesting.
Yeah. Let me. In fact, let me find.
Maybe put it in the show notes.
I'll put it in the show notes then. Yeah, I've got the actual research. I think it was Marcus Rachel. I'm not sure. But I got the research for it. Yeah, so that's EEGs. Yeah, our viewers and listeners have got to watch out for that one. In the next few weeks, we will have an EEG machine live on air.
We were looking at your brain closely, huh?
Yeah.
So one, we probably should stop. We've been rambling on again as usual.
Yeah.
But next, our next guest for
Denise
next week,
Hall. So.
Yes, she will be far more focused than us, and we'll be speaking about the way, honestly, the way a lot of people deal with stress or think they are, because she's going to talk about her work with helping people quit smoke.
And she's had a lot of people she's helped, hasn't she?
Yes, she has. Yeah. Now she's really started focusing on that aspect.
Yeah.
Of her
so that's the next episode, Double Denise.
Double Denise with 2 barrel names. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Look forward to it. See you on the next one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please remember, this podcast is designed to give you an insight into therapeutic hypnosis and is for educational purposes only. So remember, consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you've heard may apply to you or a loved one.
If you found this episode useful, you can apply for free continuing professional development or CME credits using the link provided in the show notes. Feel free to contact either of us through the links in the show notes. Join us again next week.